Did you know that some of the oldest painting traditions in India were in kitchens and courtyards, taught by grandmothers to granddaughters before the rest of the house woke up? And for most of the history, the people who made them were never called artists. They were called women, they were called tribals, and their artwork was called craft. Useful, pretty, but not serious. Today, we ask, serious by whose standard? Because these traditions are thousands of years old and they are still very much alive. This is Flashback Friday, and today we are talking about India's folk painting traditions. Hello everyone, I am Akanksha. Welcome back to Flashback Friday Season 2, presented by Art with Habir. Before we had galleries, we had walls. Before we had exhibitions, we had rituals. And before art becomes a profession, it was a practice. India's folk painting traditions are among the oldest living art forms in the world. They were not created in studios. They were painted on the walls of homes, on the floors of courtyards, on clothes, palm leaf, and bark. They marked festivals, harvests, births, and deaths. They told stories of gods and demons, of nature and community. And for most of the history, the people who made them were never called artists. Their art was considered craft, useful, functional, but not fine art. That distinction between art and craft, between what belongs in a museum and what belongs in a kitchen, is itself a colonial idea, and it's one that Indian folk artists have been actively dismantling for decades. Let's look at Madhubani painting, also called Mithila painting from Bihar. From centuries, women painted these intricate, colorful images on the freshly plastered walls and floors of their homes, especially for weddings, festivals, and rituals. The paintings are dense with imaginary gods and goddesses, the sun and moon, fish and birds, wedding processions, the sacred tulsi plant. Every motif carries meaning. The double fish symbolizes good luck. The lotus connects the earthly and the divine. What makes Madhubani extraordinary is the line. Bold, confident, continuous outlines filled with patterns. No shading, no perspective, no empty space. The artist filled every inch because in this tradition, empty space was inauspicious. In the 1960s, a severe drought hit the region. A government officer named Bhaskar Kulkarni encouraged the women to paint on paper instead of walls, to sell their art and survive. What began as a crisis became revolution. Madhubani moved out of the home and into the world. Now, let's travel west to the forest of Maharashtra and Dadra, where the Warli tribe has been painting for nearly 3000 years. Warli paintings use the simplest visual vocabulary imaginable: circles, triangles, and squares. The circles comes from the sun and moon, the triangle from mountains and trees. The square represents a sacred enclosure, a home, a gathering, using white rice paste on a red-brown mud background. Worldly artists paint the world around them: hunting scenes, farming, festivals, and the Tarpa dance. Life in motion, community in motion. There are no gods, no goddesses at the center of worldly art. The hero is the collective, people moving together, eating together, dancing together. The images pulse with rhythm like a heartbeat. Worldly art was virtually unknown outside tribal communities until the 1970s, when artist Chivya Soma Mashe began painting on paper and canvas, bringing the tradition to national and international attention. He was awarded the Padma Shri in 2011, one of the few folk artists to receive India's highest civilian honor. Let's explore Odisha and West Bengal, where storytelling itself a painting tradition. Patachitra. From the Sanskrit word patta means cloth and chitra means image, is one of the India's oldest scroll painting traditions, practiced by Chitrakar community in Odisha and the Patwa community in Bengal. Patachitra tells stories of Lord Jagannath, of the Ramayana and Mahabharata, of local myths and folk tales. The Odisha Patachitra is known for its rich, jewel-like colors, intricate borders of stylized leaves and flowers, and the flat, graphic quality of its figures. In Bengal, the Patua scroll, called Jadu Patua or Pata, was used as storytelling performance. The artist would unroll the scroll panel by panel while singing the story aloud, moving from village to village. The art was not silent, it was meant to be sung. And then there is Gond art from Madhya Pradesh, where the forest itself becomes a canvas. The Gond people are one of India's largest tribal communities, and their painting traditions transforms the natural world into something electric and alive. Animals, trees, and figures are filled not with flat color, but with patterns, dots, dashes, lines, waves, as if everything is vibrating with inner energy. Gond art became widely known through the work of Jangar Singh Shyam, who was discovered by artist and activist J. Swaminathan in 1980s. Jangar moved from painting mud walls to painting on paper and canvas, creating a visual language entirely his own. One that was rooted in Gond tradition but utterly contemporary. His story is also a complicated one. Jangar died by suicide in 2001 in Japan, where he had been kept in difficult conditions as a resident artist. His life raises hard questions about who benefits when folk art enters the global art market and who is left behind. So, here is a bigger question. These traditions survived for centuries, through colonialism, through neglect. Are they surviving today? The answer is yes, but not without cost. Many folk painting traditions have found new life through the market. Madhubani motifs appears on saris, bags, mugs, and phone cases. Varli patterns are printed on hotel lobbies and airport walls. Gond art sells in galleries from Delhi to London. This visibility has given artists income and recognition. But it also created pressure to simplify, to repeat, to produce quickly for a market that wants ethnic aesthetics without the cultural depth behind them. The most helpful development comes when artists remain in control, when Madhubani artists form cooperative and negotiate fair prices. Gond artists like Bhaju Shyam and Venkat Raman Singh Shyam writes and illustrate their own books. When the next generation is trained not just to copy the old forms, but to understand what those forms mean and to push them forward. Folk art is not a museum piece, it is a living practice. India has hundreds of folk painting traditions. Kalamkari from Andhra Pradesh, Pichwai from Rajasthan, heart scrolls of the Bhopa community, Sohrai murals from Jharkhand, each one carries memories of a community, a landscape, a way of seeing. What connects them all is this: they were made by ordinary people, for the needs of ordinary life, not to impress, not to sell, but to protect, to pray, to tell a story, to mark a moment. And in a world drowning in images made by algorithms, there is something radical about an art that is still made by hand, still tied to a place, still passed between people who know each other's names. If you would like us to go deeper into any art of these traditions, Madhubani, Varli, Patachitra, Gond, let us know in the comments. This was Flashback Friday with Art with Habir. See you next week with another artwork from the past might just explain your present.